What's up, world? Haha, this is Ari.
And Matilda.
Real Conversations. This episode is really interesting. Have a large panel here today. God bless. It's interesting because everybody here has a understanding and wants to teach people to know about their surroundings, which is mental health. Which is something that's really rampant in the urban community, I must say, because we're going to fix it today, or we're going to attempt to. So I want everybody to go around the room to just introduce themselves. We're going to start from Mrs. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Andratta Mitchell.
Hi, my name is Khadijah Allen, representing Operation Hill 100 Hearts.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Francesca, a.k.a. Franny, representing Backchat, New York.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Marcia from Backchat.
I'm Henny from Backchat.
And it's Speak Russian Cut from Backchat.
Yes, it's a very, very beautiful day outside, I must say, for myself. I really love it. But one of the questions I wanted to ask Khadijah, I'm sorry. Khadijah, I'm so sorry. With the J. Shout out to my wife, her name is Khadijah. which is interesting. And I wanted to just ask you, what do your organization do in your community? Can you just explain it?
Of course. Well, I'm from Brownsville.
Hey.
No problem. And born and raised, and I actually work in a transfer high school there. And as I was explaining before, I started there as a parent coordinator, and a lot of times in transfer high schools, it's for undercredited, overage young people. So if you weren't successful traditionally, then you come to our school. But in order for you to get in, parents have to get interviewed. And I was in charge of the interview process, and what I got to see was that a lot of parents were struggling, not just at being parents, but just at being quote-unquote normal adults. So it gave me the idea to come up with a safe space for these people to be able to express some of the things that they're going through without being judged. So what Operation Hill 100 Hearts does is we kind of slow down a bit now, but every month we come up with mixers and we give them themes, and it's kind of geared towards what we've been hearing in the Brownsville community. Like case in point, a lot of female-to-female relationships are suffering. Mother-daughter, sister-sister, friend-friend. So now we're doing a mixer called A Woman's Love or Lack Thereof. And basically what my organization is going to do is come up with all of these icebreakers in that space to kind of let you see how you're showing up to that individual, whether it be your sister, your mom, and what are the reasons you're showing up this way? What happened in your past? What's going on? How is that still affecting you now? And when you get to kind of see it, out loud, you get to say, I want to work on that. I want to be better. And more than 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. People leave that space working on the things that they showed up hurting and in pain about. So Healing Hearts likes to create the space is what I call it.
That's really interesting.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. Wow. Teary eyes. Wow. Ari likes it. All right. Miss Mitchell. Hey.
That's my son.
Yes.
Okay, so earlier I was saying I had 25 years working with the mentally ill. And now I'm working with it out in the community. And I never thought the day when I would partner up with the police department, but I have. I have because I have to be with somebody that can give us the resources to combat or try to combat or even attempt to combat homelessness. I know we see it on the trains, especially the J train. We see it on New Locks Avenue. We see it in Brownsville. We see it in our community on a daily basis. But what we also see is people who are homeless and people who are mentally ill, and it compounds a community. It shatters a community. And as we begin to see, and even riding here, Knickerbocker and Bushwick, they were all just the ghetto, but now it has changed. So now that we are looking at regentrifying communities, how do we regentrify our people? How do we educate our people? And then we have a president, and I'm just speaking, and he's mentally ill. And so we're being compounded from the White House to the ghetto. Right. So how do we fix it? It is very hard to fix it, but I think if everybody take one step at a time, I applaud you on your heart to heart, because people do need to talk. And in our culture, we were told not to talk.
Right.
Most of the abuse happened in the home because we were told not to tell that we sat on Uncle Sammy's lap.
Yeah.
And because of that cultural stigma, a lot of people don't like going to counseling. So what you're doing by bringing people in that kind of dynamics is the counseling piece, because people will heal themselves. So it's my heart that, my heart that goes out to the community when I see people misplaced and displaced. And every single hotel that they're making gets $1,000 a night for our people to live in there. Wow. So people are I just saw ladies sleeping under the train station. Never in all my years of living in New York City have I seen homelessness hit us the way it's hitting us, compound with the mental illness. So, I'm glad to be here in the room and be the oldest. I'm glad to see that young people are taking a stand, because that's my legacy, to leave my son. What he's doing today is extraordinary. Let's talk about the issue. When we can't solve it in one sitting, we can't solve it by protesting. We got to solve it by educating each other, by having forums like you're having, my sister, so that people can talk about those things.
Oh man, that's very interesting. Yes, the cast members.
So you want me to go first?
Yes.
So yeah, my name's Marcia, and I've been working in this field for about 4 to 5 years. I graduated from Pennsylvania State University with a bachelor's in psychology, and I work under the state of Connecticut. I work with the population that had dual diagnosis, so they had mental health mixed with drug addiction. I work with children that suffer from autism, and now I'm kind of working with Rikers, and I was talking earlier to Miss Mitchell, and I was speaking about how mental health is greatly inside in the jailhouses, incarcerated people are greatly affected by mental health illness. Yes. And I feel like we don't have the accurate resources to help them, and that's something that the company that I'm working with, we're trying to bring those resources out to them, because some of them are not even aware of the resources that they're allowed to that they can have. Right. So we're trying to bring those resources out to them and trying to just build a stronger community with men more so that are incarcerated. So
yes, I know Matilda got another question. She gonna have a question, but it's always interesting when you indicate that individuals who are incarcerated go in perfectly fine. I'm sorry. Then we're gonna go back, but it's always interesting because it's a lot of people that I know that probably listen to this has suffered the same thing, and they probably need to know what resources is out there, because at the end of the day, they don't get the resources. They just get a paper saying, hey, this is where you need to go, and this is a shelter.
I feel that, I don't want to say they're going perfectly fine. I feel that just like you and me, we don't know what our real issue is right now. Everyone is suffering from mental health.
Yes.
It's not until you're inside and you're forced into going into what is it called? The hole. And you're sitting there and you're thinking by yourself for months and months, and you have no one to even engage with. And that's when you start realizing that there's something wrong. I do have a mental health issue.
But you also have to understand that. The time given to these people, are also ridiculous. Like, you have a 29-year-old going in, leaving little kids behind, getting 30 years for, small crimes. I'm not saying that they should do the crimes, but what I'm saying is that family leaves them behind, because time has to move for them too. So they have no one to talk to. They're kind of like fighting for status in jail and things like that. And for those that do come out, when they come out, their minds are discombobulated. They don't even know how to readjust. And they think that they're back in whatever time they went in. So it's a lot that goes into it. Like, my son is autistic. His father died when my son's father died when he was 3. And he was in and out of jail. I know the effect that it had on me. you know, that I have to rely on my parents, and they're not the one that sat and had a baby with me. You know what I mean? So he's going in. It's also messing me up. And now I was depressed. Pregnant with my son. You know, I'm not sure the reason why he came out autistic, but he is. And I just found out, he's 9 now, and I just found out a month ago that he was able to get ABA services. And I said, what? And I just asked, by being on the panel like back chat, I just took the opportunity to write it on Twitter. And that someone reached out to me and was just like, do you know he could qualify for ABA therapy? And I said, what? All these years that I'm harassing these people, and I had no idea. Like, I don't remember, like, you know. So it's just, I've been doing the research to get him those services as well. Like, he came from a space where he wasn't talking at all, you know, where I need his dad to help me. He's not there because he's either in jail or now he's dead, you know. And it is really hard for me, but it does challenge me, and it does make me better, like, you know. So he can talk well on right now, like, you know, you see he's sitting right there, like, doing his thing, and I gotta check on him.
I wanted to piggyback on my girl, what Henny said, because as she said, some of the sentences are quite harsh, but some of the treatments on the inside, to me, is heartbreaking. You know, I'm actually in a relationship with a person who is incarcerated, and a lot of what makes it work is just straight up love and support. You know, and I'm not saying that, you know, these people, I know they're hired to, you know, enforce rules, and I get that. But it's always about the way you do things. You know what I'm saying? And from what I can see, just being a visitor, you know, and then hearing some of the things from my boyfriend as an inmate, come on. That's just, how do you sleep at night when you are treating these people this way? And to me, that's what is contributing to the mental health piece. Because I don't think my boyfriend is crazy, but I know sometimes when pushed to the edge by a CO, he can be a tad bit extreme.
Irate. Yeah, I get it, yeah.
So, you know, it's like, come on, a lot of that is contributing, and it's okay. I'm struggling with that piece because I was sharing earlier, I was doing some mentoring on Rikers Island this summer in the Rosie M. Singer building for the adolescent females, and even coming in as somebody who's trying to provide services, I'm getting treated like an inmate. And I'm at some points, I'm like, I'm sorry, did I offend you? Because I'm confused. I'm asking questions that I don't know anything about this right here. And it's like, I'm getting on your nerves, I'm aggravating you, and I'm 2 minutes from getting cursed out. That's enough to set me off, and I think my mental health is a little stable. So I don't know. I'm struggling with a lot of these things.
Man, it's like, this is real conversations. I love it all the time. But what we don't see is that, like, what Matilda can contest, like, we work in this population, and it's hard because working in this population, you have to have thick skin. So with a CO, you have to have, as a CO, you probably have to have real thick skin to deal with some of the people or the inmates that's in there, but you should also treat them with the respect that they deserve. And that's difficult because when you doing, and I don't know, but I'm just guessing, if you're doing 16, 17 hour shifts, you like, oh man, it's locked down. It's like, but at the end, then this is always real conversations, because there's always difference of opinion. I don't mind that, and I love it, and I embrace it. But when you're doing 16, 17 hour shifts and you overwhelmed, but you don't tell your supervisor or your boss that you overwhelmed, what happens? You become like, F this, forget that. You know, you start treating people like animals, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, that's something that's very prevalent with correctional officers, because they're in a confined space for so long. So when they first start, they might, you know, be the normal correctional officer, do everything that they're supposed to do. But once they're there for so many years and so many hours, they start mistreating the inmates. They're not the nice guy anymore. So that's something that's very common. Even with working in the shelter, there's people who I've seen start and they're very cool and laid back. But once they start dealing with our guys, because they get cursed out every day or somebody just gets on their nerves, they start to become different. They start to become meaner. They enforce the rules a little bit more. So he is right. You do have to have thick skin, but I also do believe that you have to treat them like human beings.
Yeah, you have to.
But that goes with education, because for the 25 years I've been doing this, I educate people daily because I do work with children who are autistic. I work with adults who are autistic. But I always keep in the back of my mind, the reason I'm here is to provide a service.
Right.
So I was hanging out with the police the other day, and I asked them, I said, how often do you get a psychological? It's like, what? I said, how often do you get a psychological exam? How often do you sit down with a therapist to talk about what you need to talk about?
Right.
Because remember, mental illness just don't hit the people that's sitting in the cell. It also compounds the person that's providing the service.
Right.
So when you look at even the police department, and I'm asking them, they looking at me like, what? I'm like, what kind of insurance you got? No, but I'm saying maybe you need some kind of psychological every year, every 2 years to see where you at, because something significant could have changed in the course of your time. Being confined inside of Rikers Island, even as a correctional officer, has to have a mental impact on the person.
Right.
16 hours, 20 hours, your kids are growing up before you know it, your wife moved out because you're not home. So these people have real issues, and then guess what? Then they look at then they take care of our people. They're monitoring and supervising our people. So education is key. Education unlocks the door.
Right.
So it is my hope that now that we're really looking at mental illness, and we have a first layer, the mayor. The mayor's wife has a program called Thrive Network.
Yeah.
But it's for people who have telephones. Because the homeless person in the street is not going to call Thrive Network to say that the voices are getting me.
Right.
So, that's my conversation with her. I'm shouting her out on November, because I just met her husband the other day. Because I'm speaking up for my community. If I don't speak up for my community, who will?
Right.
We have to speak up for our community.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
I wanted to add one more thing.
Yes.
So I'm a nurse. And I'm an LPN. I'm going back to school to be an RN. But
shout out to that.
Thank you. But I've learned so much while being in school. And I think as people that work in the community and with people who have mental issues or anything for that matter, we need to educate them as well for things that they can get. Like, the first thing we do when people come to the hospital or something, we want to medicate them.
Yeah, I don't believe in medication.
Why are we so quick to medicate people?
It's all about the money.
And I know it might come back to bite me because I am a nurse, right? The doctor gives a
but it's all right though.
do.
It's all right though.
Yeah, I have to give the medication, right? But my thing is like, I think nurses too, they need a psych eval yearly because we do get burnt out. We deal with a lot of people, and we're not only dealing with people, we're dealing with their families,
right.
Like, and sometimes, like, I've seen so many deaths in so many different ways that I'm sort of immune to it at this point. Like, and people might look at me like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I've dealt with hospice, I've dealt with wrapping up dead bodies, I've dealt with seeing, different kind of things, people shots to the head, different type of things, and you'll be surprised what we go through, and then we take that back home.
Right.
See, that's what's crazy. That's what I like, because when we start realizing that we all need to have that time where we need to see someone. So jobs I know a lot of jobs do, but it's up to the people to accept it, to allow it into your life. Because when you don't allow things like therapists to come in to just help you out with the small things, because those small things will always become big things if you don't get the help for it.
Right.
That's just my personal opinion, and I'll always give my personal opinion. So yes, if you're working in a field and it's stressful and if there's a lot going on, then you should seek help. I'm sorry, you got a question?
No, I just want to piggyback off of something.
Yes, piggyback.
It's kind of piggybacking, but not exactly the exact same field. But I have friends that come from the military.
Okay.
And a lot of people forget about those people, that they suffer a lot from PTSD.
Right.
And piggybacking off of what Kenny just said, when you see death, like I was just speaking to my friend earlier today, and he was telling me a situation where he had to replace the missiles on the helicopter. And there was a person that was like dead in the back of the helicopter because they just shot up the helicopter when they were up in the air. And he had to look at the body and act like it didn't even exist because it was a norm to them. And from that conversation, he went off to also say that he suffers from major anxiety, and from the anxiety, it causes him to be depressed. And instead of them evaluating him and having him go to a therapist, they just feed him pills, depression pills.
Yeah.
And it makes him tired, it makes him exhausted, and so he sleeps throughout the day. So it's like a routine of feeling anxiety, taking the pills, going to sleep, but there's never any like real treatment for him to like be able to how can I say? I don't want to say live with it, but be able to overcome it for it to not overcome him.
Right.
And it's sad because people forget about the people from the military. They just automatically deem them like, oh, they're all right, they're okay.
Because they're in the military, they're
exactly.
right.
Exactly. It's even to the point that recently we had a friend that passed away. Wow. And it's hard for him to deal with the death because for him, death is normal. And I said to him one day, because he was talking about our friend and he wanted to cry. And I said, it's okay to cry. And he goes, no, we're men. Men don't cry. And it's like, in that kind of field, they teach you to be a certain way. They teach you not to have emotions. They teach you... They kind of like transform your mental so that now when you get put back in society, you don't know how to be anymore.
That's why it's so hard for them to make that transition back to society.
Exactly.
Just like, and it goes hand in hand just for like the inmates.
Yeah.
I won't say they're the same, but that transition is always difficult.
It's really hard, but it's sad to hear because he tells me that he can't enter a train because he feels like he doesn't have control. Yeah, even when he goes to the barber to get a haircut, when the barber puts the apron around him, because it's around his neck, he just feels confined. Yeah. Like he just feels like he needs to have control because when he wasn't in Afghanistan, he had no control of his life. Yeah. Every morning they were getting bombed. He didn't know when he was going to live, if he was going to die the next day. Like there was times that the people that he worked with in his platoon, they would wake him up if a bomb went off, and he's like, "Yo, don't wake me up because I'd rather sleep in death than have to be alive and witness certain things." So when you hear things like that, they don't have therapists that help them. Not saying they don't have it, but our community, the African American community, or minorities in general, they're so used to, like she said earlier, not talking. Because in our home, we're not allowed to talk. If we feel a certain way, you hold it in, let it go, or keep it pushing. But it's never a situation where you can say, "Hey, Mom, I'm feeling this way," and your mom knows how to take care of it or deal with the situation. So it saddens me with the military, especially. And I'm not saying that people who are incarcerated, but it's no. I feel like they don't get the help that people assume that they get. Yeah. A lot of people believe that, people that come from the military have all these benefits when they don't. Yeah. A lot of them are out in the streets. A lot of them are the homeless people in the streets. Right. So it's really sad.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to say, what's your name?
Honey.
I thought I said it wrong. Yeah, my girl. All right. No, what she said about the medication piece, and that was one of the big focal points of Healing Hearts was we don't look at what's wrong with people. We look at what happens to them.
Can you say that again?
We do not look at what's wrong with people. We look at what happens to them.
Right.
On the back of, I was trying to find a card, but I gave them all to you. On the back of our business cards, one of the things that we do is one of the titles that we have is Organizational Development Consultants. Okay. And that's for those organizations where, like you said, these people need help. You're here to provide a service, but you also need some services provided. And like even with me, I work for the Department of Education. It's a conflict of interest because I'm an employee, but we get PDs. All of these places, they get these trainings and things and when you go in, you get in it for stuff that kind of really doesn't talk about or pertain to what you really need to be talking about. It is very, very, it's horrific how real trauma is. And when this young lady here was talking about that on such a larger scale, I can give you some of my own trauma, and it's even worse. It's like my dad died of a heart attack. Flat out, didn't come home from work today. Boom, that's it. Prior to that, he was not in the hospital, any of the above. So because of that, I'm very traumatized by it. It got to a point where I would work out, and if my heart rate gets to a certain point, I gotta stop. I have to stop. And even you have doctors telling you, Khadijah, nothing's gonna happen. Your heart rate is supposed to get like that. That's what's supposed to happen. Yeah. But because I was so traumatized, thinking every little thing, when I get a little pain, I'm gonna have a heart attack and drop dead. And that went on for years and years and years and years, stifling me. I got all the way up to 300 pounds, not wanting to work out. And it's like, you'll be surprised how people who seem so normal and regular, it's a lot of trauma going on that could seem small, and it's really, really big.
Yeah, that's oh man, that's amazing. Because it's in our community. But I want to talk about something on a larger scale. What happened in Nevada, and how I feel like that the individual that did that. That's okay. The individual that did the mass shooting, had to be mentally ill. I believe he was suffering through mental illness. And this is just my personal opinion, and I bring it up to a gentleman who I know from a training that I did, and I said, hey, I think that everybody who owns a rifle, or everybody in the NRA should receive a psych evaluation. He looked at me like, are you freaking kidding me? He said, you know how many of us is not going to be able to carry? I said, my man.
That's the point.
my people are dying.
Right, exactly.
And not just black people. I'm just saying my people are dying because people are not having that. They're not having that skill set to say, okay, I'm going to get checked out. I have a gun. I'm licensed to carry a gun. But before you get licensed, my man, you need a psych eval. You should get something. Because at the end of the day, we'll tell, okay, well, you're not fit to carry a firearm. Right? Let's reevaluate this 6 months down the line. Right? I'm not saying that they should have, I do believe, and they should have stricter gun laws, but a psych eval, if they want to say, okay, it's not going to be as strict, a psych eval should be one of the things that each person that's carrying a concealed weapon that's legal to carry a concealed weapon should have a psych eval.
I agree.
And that's just on a larger scale, because I think mental illness hits everywhere, hits every community.
Definitely.
It doesn't just hit the African American community, it hits the Asian community, it hits the white population. In any community. So I just wanted to touch on that. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm ranting.
That's fine. Just kind of piggybacking off what you said about the man. Yeah, I'm sure there's some validity to his mental illness. But let's go back to the smaller scale for 1 second. The young man who was allegedly killed, the jogger in Howard Beach, his trial was last week, and they did not deem him mentally ill at all. So sometimes you know the mental ill race card can be played.
Yes.
Either for us or against us.
Right.
I'm looking at the young man, and yes, I can do an expert witness and tell you that he was mentally ill. I live near Howard Beach, but I work in Howard Beach, and I can also tell you that if he did this, why is the picture of the man and the woman still parading all through the community?
Yeah,
I don't think that the community, local politicians, and this is something I'm going to speak about at the next meeting, is doing enough to at least look into what's going on. We made the mistake, and you lovely people were probably not even born when we had this situation with the Central Park jogger situation.
Yeah.
Everybody stood back and didn't put their hands in to see what was going on. He shot up a lot of people, and it's true, and he probably wasn't mentally ill.
The guy in Nevada.
But on the lower end of things, they're telling us that this young man killed this woman, and there's nothing wrong with him, but they still have a picture of a white man with a beard. Those are the things that, you young people, take the helm. March, do what you guys need to do, because we've done it for you to get to this place. We are not at the place where we should be, and that's because a lot of us have now conformed to everything that's going on.
Right.
But conversations like this, forums like this, give you the opportunity to network with different people, and after this, we should be exchanging cards and saying, where are you going to be speaking next time? Let me come and let me support you, because Al Sharpton is tired. Jesse Jackson's gone.
Yes. So we got a voice, so we got to speak up. We got to talk. I'm sorry, go ahead.
After you guys say
No problem. I just want to add that there are people that can beat the system. Let's get that very clear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
There's people that they'll say, they know what to say to get what they need, right?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
they make it very difficult for people that actually do need things. Now, I get some people do the mass shooting and people deem them mentally ill. No, what if they really just wanted to do it? At the end of the day, you know right and you know wrong, regardless of what's going on.
But you don't think that's a mental illness for you to want to do that?
I don't. I'm personally, I don't think. I think that's an excuse to use to want to do that. Personally, I don't think that it's a mental illness. They know what they're doing, in my opinion. Like, you did it, right? And they'll go and they'll say, I have an issue, and they'll get right off. To me, that's like they should still be penalized, in my opinion.
But I think what I kind of understand what they're saying is, like, if you take pleasure in that, are you okay?
No, it's a mental.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you really okay? Because you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like the people who hurt kids.
Right.
You get that turns you on. That makes you feel good. If that's the case, then something is not clear.
Right.
Something ain't clear up there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
Oh, no, you good.
Oh, man, we talking about everything.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to say something. Okay, so I've done research because I do social work, and my problem with research is that when I'm researching things, I'm always finding things about the white population. Mm-hmm. I'm never seeing anything about my people, and I'm here for my people. So I want to know more about mental illness in the African American communities because I'm an African American. I want to know how I can help my people. Back to what we were talking about, it's always when the white person is getting into these mass shootings, it's always a mental illness, but when it's for the black person, it's he's going to jail. Mm-hmm. Or it's terrorism. Mm-hmm. So me working in the mental health field for about 4 years, I swear I've only had like 2 black clients. These resources are valuable. They get so many resources, the white people in the mental health field. They get so many resources. They get housing. They get skills to how to integrate back into the communities. They get money, everything. And I only work with 2 black people, and I'm like, I know more of my people need these resources. So I think that it's really important that we as black people educate ourselves, go to school, and learn how we can then return these resources back to our communities, and how can we help our own black people with mental illness, and also how can we just let black people know together it's okay. If you're struggling with something, it's okay to seek help. Mm-hmm. If you need something, these are the places that you go to. This is how you do things, because honestly the system is really here to when they are offering black people services, it's more to bring their own community down versus to help them. When it's white people, it's more so like we're trying to build you up so that you don't have to deal with the same things that black people have to deal with.
I'm so sorry. But that's one of the things that if you go back into the podcast, and they always tell you, like, we always say they should have some resources in our community to help us, not to hurt us. Because it's a lot of things that's in our community to hurt us, right? If it's 8 liquor stores on one corner, what does that mean?
Right.
All right. So it's just a fact, and I'm only talking facts, because if I walk to a Caucasian neighborhood and it's only 1 liquor store there, or it's only a wine or wine and spirit, but it doesn't say a liquor store, right? And it's no homeless man outside that liquor store who was a veteran, right? Who's not getting the services he needs because he's entitled to those services for fighting for our country. Mm-hmm. And you're not getting that. Or if it's an individual who's been incarcerated in front of that liquor store, and we walk right by him because we want to go get our Hennessy. Mm-hmm. We want to go get our drink on that night.
But you made a point.
Oh, because
you did, because we can't keep pointing at other people, and we cannot point at ourselves as a community, because we have local government, and you have the community boards in every community who have meetings when new buildings or when things are being built. Mm-hmm. At that time, somebody should say, well, you got 4 liquor stores on the corner next to the Chinese restaurant and the laundromat. Mm-hmm. If we don't change within, how are we going to change without? We have to learn how to take responsibility for our own carelessness. And we got some carelessness going on.
Yes, we do.
And going back to what you said, you're 100% right. When I became a therapist in my family, they thought I was crazy. A little bit crazy. Because I followed my dream. But what I want to say is it's because of our black stigma. You didn't talk about things in the house unless you was cutting up collard greens and you was frying chicken in the kitchen, but that conversation was cut. Mm-hmm. You couldn't tell on so-and-so. You can't go to the church. You know how many mothers in the church, I'm talking about old people died in the church because of domestic violence, because the pastors at the time told them they had to stay with the man because he was beating on him.
Right.
So we have to take responsibility. You'll have to take responsibility. I have to take responsibility for my generation. But we have to take responsibility. We got to wake up and we got to stand up.
And we also have to educate people. I actually went to a school we went to neighboring schools with a friend of mine who just put on Facebook that he suffers from bipolar depression. Now, I did not know this at all, and I knew him for 4 years, and he was always the happy-go-lucky type. I never seen him sad or angry. So it's something that we have to be educated on, because a lot of the times people don't talk about it. They keep it under wraps, and then one day you find out that they're suffering from a mental illness. Statistically, 1 in 4 people suffer from something. So it could be 1, 2, 3, you have a mental illness. 1, 2, 3, 4, you have a mental illness. So, we just have to educate people. And the organization that you are running is very great, because people get to talk about something that they don't want to talk about. Mm-hmm. So,
and you know what I was going to say about having the resources in the community, because like I said, I'm in a transfer high school in Brownsville. The people have to want it.
Right.
The people have, and that's the part where I'm struggling, because it's like transfer high schools is literally giving you your diploma. Literally, I'm there. They giving you your diploma. It's so much conflicts you have to face with parents coming in when I'm trying to tell them, sweetie, we giving out diplomas over here. Where you at? You know, but coming in and beefing, and you don't want to hear it, and you don't want to talk about it. Sweetie, I'm trying to give you something that's going to help your kid in the future, but they don't want it. And that's why I like the Healing Hearts piece is, this is things that's happening with you. I want you to share it. I don't want to tell you what you're going through. I don't even want to ask you what you're going through. I want you to reach out and say, listen, I'm struggling. I'm struggling, because then at that point, I know you want some help.
Right.
Okay, well, let me get down where you at, and I can help you. But a lot of times with us young people, and I consider us still a little cute and young. It's a lot of ignorance. It's a lot of ignorance. It's a lot of ignorance when you're trying to have conversations about, okay, you're raising a teenager. And again, I'm in charge of conflict resolution in my school, and I'm doing mediations. I'm teaching young people that you have to coexist in the same space with people you don't like, versus you going home and your mother telling you, shoot them, kill them, you better whip them up. And then I'm getting parents in here saying, listen, we had zero tolerance for fighting in my school, because we in Brownsville. We don't have no metal detectors, and we made it that way because we want kids to come and feel comfortable. So, how are we going to make things work if you're negating everything that we trying to do? And it's getting harder. So my thing is, I'm all for them bringing the resources in the community. I want them there. But I also want these people to understand that not only do you need them, but you want them. They're going to help you. And it's like bumping heads every single time.
But to go back to piggybacking off of what you said with domestic violence, I come from a home that, my mother was abused by my father verbally, emotionally, and physically. And when she stood her ground to decide that she wasn't going to take my father back, she suffered a lot from depression. And it was really hard to watch, because she would have her moments where she was very miserable. And it's they never gave her the advice to go seek a therapist and to talk about it. So all they did, once again, feed her pills. And it was hard to watch, because she would be very miserable. Then 30 minutes later, after she popped the pill, she would be the happiest person in the world. And it's all I could think about was I just want my mom. Just my mom. Not the pill mom, but my mom. And it was hard to watch, because it's you don't know when the person is normal. And it's not right that because of certain traumas that the person went through, it caused them to have to get to that route. And it's sad that still to this day, there's certain things that she just doesn't talk about, because it's like I said, it's not in our culture to talk. Even I was in a situation where I was abused, and I didn't go to my mom, I didn't go to anyone. No one knew that I was being abused until I almost died. And it was because my cousin walked into the situation, and she jumped on him to stop him from suffocating me. But in situations like that, you hide a lot of things, because you're raised a certain way to be a certain way, so it goes from generation to generation. I didn't know that my mother was being abused until I would walk into certain situations, because she would act you would hear thumping in the room, and then she would come out smiling like nothing ever happened. And then when I would go in the room, you just see holes everywhere, and it's what's going on? What's really going on? And still to this day, my mom never spoke about me being abused, and I don't talk to her about it either. And it's just sad that it's going to continue being this generational. It's just sad. And
I'm just the last thing I'm going to say today. I just wanted to say too, a lot of times with that, I'm so happy you shared, because what I'm also fighting with is judgment. Even if people don't, it's not coming from the older generation. People don't want to say things because they're so in fear of what people are going to think about them after they share. And it's so much people with such harsh judgment. Your ish is not my ish, but we all got some ish. So if mine is green, why am I under a microscope because yours is blue? And that's what I'm struggling with as well. I live out loud. I'm not on social media right now, but I got 10,000 pictures. You'll see me in panty and bra when I was 300 pounds, and you'll see me in panty and in Broadway. I live out loud. My whole life is out here because you know what? It's traumatizing to have to hide behind your ish. Right. Yeah. That's the worst feeling in the world. Yeah. But I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. So I'm actually happy that Henny shared because this is what I was talking about earlier. I was saying like how mental health can really you can bring it on down to your kids. Like your mom was going through something and now you don't even know that you are internalizing that and that you're carrying that same thing. And if you have children, they might also have be going through the same mental health things because it, like you said, it's generational. And that's something that we do need to be aware of because now that you can identify that it's a problem, you should see. You got to break the chain or something like that because if not, your kids are at risk of experiencing the same things that you are experiencing.
You got to be able to break the chain. In any, if it's alcoholism, if it's drug addiction, if it's physical, emotional abuse, you have to be. And as an adult, as a parent, I'm definitely making sure that my kids understand the difference between physical and verbal physical abuse and I'm sorry, physical. You just got me all watery. Sorry. That's all right. You got to know the difference between physical and emotional abuse, and you have to teach your kids that. So if it's happening, they can come to you, and you can put an end to it because you're teaching them and you instill in your children. You have to instill certain things into your children. Right. Oh man, listen. Go ahead, Dretta.
No, you go.
Oh man, go ahead, man.
I personally believe that mental health within our community, the community of people of color, is a deep-rooted issue, whether we realize it or have accepted it or not. Now, it's proven that African Americans are 20% more likely to experience mental illness in whichever form or capacity, and I think that as a community we have to do better. It's imperative that we do better. Why? Because 20% isn't accurate. 20% is what we know of. Right. For those that are strong enough to come forward and say, look, this is my story, and I'm going to tell it for myself, but with that being said, I need someone to pick up on this and give me help. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there's such a negative stigma around folks with mental health, and there's this negative stigma that if you're online using your social media platforms to tell your story, as you said, you live quite outwardly, like you're open about your weight and those sorts of things. And I feel like more often than not, we tend to chastise those that use social media platforms to be open and honest in regards to issues that they may be suffering or going through, and we tend to label them, attention seekers, rather than saying maybe this is someone's cry for help. Maybe this is someone's way of saying I can't go home to my mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever it may be. But online, I feel like this is a safe place for me to express how I feel, and hopefully someone will reach out to me and say, you know what, I got you, I can help you, I can give you the resources, or lead you, bring the horse to the water, so to speak, and lead them in the direction of being able to deal with some of those issues. But I think ultimately speaking, it comes down to us as a community not being so judgmental, not being so ignorant, and being able to, first and foremost, understand ourselves. Yeah. And secondly, be able to attempt to understand others. And if you can't do that, at least respect others. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, in life, we're not going to understand everything. It's impossible. But respect is that one thing that goes a long way. Yeah. And it's the common denominator between all beings, I believe. Yeah. So that's just my personal opinion. As I said, I believe that mental health within our community, I'm speaking from the perspective of a person of color because that's who I am, that's who I identify with, and little boys and little girls will identify with me equally. So that's an important fact.
I know that voice was in there. Y'all slipping.
Hey, we got more voices here, people.
Hey guys, Anna, Events and Marketing Manager for Backchat.
Hey, how you doing?
I just wanted to say something real quick in regards to that because one of the biggest things with our community is we don't know any better. We're ignorant. I'm a Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria. I was raised in Nigeria, and I came to this country. We're taught tough love. We're taught when you're going through situations, you need to handle it and keep it pushing. And a lot of times they don't realize that you're actually destroying yourself inside by forcing yourself to act like it's okay, forcing yourself to act like you're tough, forcing yourself to act like what you're going through doesn't matter because the person next to you might be going through something worse. And personally, this is from personal experiences, I feel like when we start to acknowledge, like Rashawn said, that you don't need to internalize all your pain. You don't need to put yourself in a situation where you feel like you're demeaned because, oh, you want to put it on social media, or oh, you need to go to a therapist, or oh, you need to genuinely seek help. The moment we can tackle that problem, a lot of stuff will be solved. I've noticed with a lot of other cultures, they're very tight-knit. They're together. When situations happen, they handle it like they're a family. But unfortunately, with our culture, we don't do that.
Right.
Everything is a competition. Everything is, we're always striving to get to the top, and it's like there can only be one person at the top.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of problems trickle down, because people feel like they're alone. People feel like they can only do this on their own, and they cannot share all this other stuff because the next person might use that against them. Right. So if we can solve the biggest problem that we have at hand, I do generally feel like a lot of things that we're talking about today can eventually be solved. And of course, it's not going to happen today, or it's not going to happen tomorrow. But I do feel like conversations like this is the first step.
Right.
Yes. And this is why this is Real Conversations. Is because we want to be able, me and Matilda, we want to be able to open up forums for just different conversations that's more so taboo in our community, right? So it's like, all right, well, we don't want to talk about it. You know, you can't talk about it with your mother because she was going through the same thing. Can't talk about it with your grandmother because she was going through the same thing. So who are you going to talk about it to? And this is the platform I want to put out, that if you have any issues, then you should seek resources. There's resources in our community. And all you have to do is just Google. If you can Google where you can get the latest shit from, excuse my language, then you can Google where you can get the latest services from. And that's just a bang bang for that one. Because I Google everything. But I Google the right things, because if I need something, I'm Googling it. Right. And if you need services, you could Google that shit too.
Right. I actually have a question for you. When you were going through the abuse with your relationship, did you go to anybody about it at all?
No. My best friend caught wind of it, and then when he noticed that she caught wind of it, he had threatened her life, saying, if you were to tell anybody, if you force Francesca to leave me, I'm gonna kill you and her. Like, it was really bad. Like, I remember there being an instant where we were getting ready to head out somewhere, and he was like chuckling to himself, and I said, what is so funny? And he goes, I just realized if I kill you, I have to kill your sister and your best friend, because they would know that I killed you, and I can't have anybody know what happened. Like, it was very surreal, because when certain things that happen to me is like things that you would watch in a movie. Yeah. That you, not saying that it's impossible, because clearly people get ideas to put movies out there because things like that happen in real life. Right. But it's like I never thought it would happen to me. Like, there was many situations he would drive 100 miles an hour to a red light, forcing me to tell him that I loved him and I'm not going to leave him for anybody else, just to make sure that, like, he had me wrapped around his fingers. And there was a day that he was beating me, and he, like, drop kicked me to the floor. And his mother heard, because his room was, like, upstairs. So when the mother rushed upstairs, she was like, what's going on? And she, like, found him above me, like, punching me. And she was like, Stanley, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then, like, she pulled him off of me, and then she was like, Francesca, run. So then when I was running, he kicked me down the stairs. So the next day, she saw me, and she goes, I don't know if you know, but his father used to, like, abuse me as well. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, he told me. And she goes, let me guess, he told you that he's going to stop every time he hits you. And I said, yeah. She goes, Francesca, he's not going to stop. I'm telling you that right now. I had to leave his father and, like, have the cops arrest him because he was never going to stop. And it's sad that Stanley's becoming just like his father, and it breaks my heart, but I'm begging you to leave my son. And I didn't listen to her because, of course, I was very weak. I loved him, and every time he apologized, I accepted his apology, until the day that he beat me, to the point that, and because I remember he, like, lifted me up by my throat and then threw me onto the bed. And when he threw me onto the bed, he was smothering me with a pillow. And it just so happened that my cousin was coming home from school. So when she usually says, hi, Francesca, when she comes in, and when she didn't hear me respond, she comes to the room, and then she saw him, like, over me. And so when she called the cops and everybody came, and when everybody was at the scene, his mother came. And the mother was like, I told you to leave him. And then everybody was like, you told her. This is not the first time. And I was so embarrassed. And my sister just came to me.
So, I'm sorry, you got a question.
I don't have a question. I was just going to say, Francesca, it's so crazy. I had a friend that me and her started hanging back out after she was having this experience. And you know what she told me? She said, when you're a very beautiful girl, such as yourself, she said the first time I tried to shed, people told me that, I was too pretty for that. And she was like, it had nothing to do with the way that I look.
That's not what they want to hear.
Yeah, it's not. It had nothing to do with that. And she said that they kept. That was their way of telling her she needs to stop letting the other person do it. And she said, I wasn't thinking about the way that I looked.
Right.
It was the way I felt. And it's so many judgments that get passed about these type of situations. I'm thankful that you're brave enough to share your story because a lot of people don't.
And sorry, I don't mean to take it, but there's definitely judgment because there were guys that would see it happening. Like, he would abuse me outside on the block, and guys would see it, and they wouldn't even do anything. And I would look at them and be like, so you guys are not going to say anything to your friend? And they're like, it's none of our business. And I think with our community, like, they're so used to minding their business when they need to pay attention to what's going on, and they need to help, and they need to stop it. And it's I don't know how to explain it. And it's like situations like that, it breaks you. So a person could look at you and think that you're so beautiful, you have everything going on, you can get whatever you want, but it's not the truth, because if you can't even see the beauty that you have and own your beauty because that person tore you to a pulp. Like, when I say pulp, it took me, I still struggle from, like, insecurities and emotional distress. Like, still to this day, I'm 31, and the situation happened to me when I was, 19, 20? And I'm still to this day, 12 years later, crying about it because it's not easy to get over that hump, to feel like you're worth more than that situation. The person makes you feel like you're worth nothing, like nothing. And to get from nothing and try to, like, build yourself up percentage by percentage is not easy. And then to do it on your own because you have nobody to talk to, because even the people that were there that witnessed everything that was going on, they don't talk about it anymore. They leave it alone. My sister don't talk about it. My cousin, after he came to me and sat and said, what do you want me to do to this man? And I said, you know what, leave him alone because I don't want his life on my hands. We never spoke about it again. And it's insane to me how, I don't want to say that they don't care, but I understand because you're so used to people telling you, mind your business. Like, so I don't know. I also feel like people need to learn. I'm not saying for people to be in each other's business, but when they see that help is needed, for you to enforce help on someone, because a lot of times a person doesn't want to hear what you have to say the first time, the second time, the third time, but you never know, that fourth push could aid that person to be like, you know what, that person's absolutely right, let me seek someone.
Can I ask you a question? Have you seek counseling?
No.
Because I feel it's so pinned up in you
that
I haven't. You need to be delivered from that. And what I'm hearing from you is that you actually still feel the pain. So either you need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's over and move away from it and pray. I have to say pray. Because we have to be delivered from certain things in our life. We have to be delivered, and only God can deliver us from certain things. I know it's a real conversation, so this is my real conversation. That only God can bring you through certain things, because generational curses have to be broken. So, my sister, you have to pray. You from Nigeria? You know how we pray in Nigeria, because I've been to Nigeria.
But it was hard, because there was a point in time where I gave up on believing in anything, because I said to myself, I was such a good woman. Why did I deserve that? So I felt like there wasn't a God.
But listen
and I felt like there was no need to pray.
Right.
Because
all of that is true. All of that is true feelings. But let me tell you something. Your story can help somebody in their story.
That's true.
Sometimes we have to go through things in life so that somebody else can be saved. And unfortunately, you have to go through that ugliness. You should be speaking in shelters. You should be at domestic conferences, and you should be able to tell your story, because your story is going to save somebody else's life, my sister.
And I just want to say that I'm happy that you shared that, because when I say we do it for the people that understand this podcast, understand your situation, and like, wow, you know what? I've been through that. I've seen that, and they're able to, even the people that going through it now. They like, oh shit, like I'm going through the same thing. There is a out. There is a way out. And you found your out. Now you have to find yourself. So once you find yourself, you can go and speak on different forums. Hey, this is what I did. This is what I've been through. And look at me now. Because people got to, if you look at me now, I have a history. But like, what is it? It's a history. It was a past, something that happened in the past. Now look at me now. That's what you got to look at. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You want to?
Okay, so Francesca, like, what I want to, like, I'm listening to you, and you're saying, like, oh, you were a great girlfriend, and I feel like you're putting it back to yourself. You're putting the blame back to yourself, but you have to understand that blame is really on him. Like I spoke earlier, and I told you, when you are a child and you're seeing stuff and you're internalizing it, it then becomes a trauma for you, and then mental illness occurs. The mental health aspect. So honestly, it wouldn't have nothing to do with you. You could have been quiet, and then same thing. Something's gonna happen because now he's dealing with something that he needs to find help for that he hasn't, and he's putting it back out on you. And that's why his mom told you to leave, because she knows this is a generational thing. And if you're looking for a therapist, just let me know, because I know somebody that's really good. No, seriously, that's really good, that can help you, because you really do need you still need to be healed from that. Because if you're not, when you have your kids, how can you help them? How can you lead them into the right path? It's gonna just become a generational, like as we've been speaking. So yeah, I
will say that it is good that you're able to speak about it now.
Yeah.
That is therapeutic.
It is.
That is very therapeutic that you're able to. Yes.
Right. I think that's where I'm at, like, because I was in a very abusive relationship, but his mother didn't tell me to leave. When I did leave, because, growing up, that's not what I saw. Like, I'm Nigerian as well, and, the women are really strong, but they are very submissive to their man. So growing up, that's what I thought. Like, you have to be very submissive to your man with anything that he does. So if he hits you, you swallow it, you deal with it. Like, I grew, all my experiences I learned on my own. So I learned, after having it took me to have my son to leave. But his mom used to say, his father used to do it too. You'll be okay. I'm okay. Like, you know what I mean? And I did very much love him with every being inside of me. I went against my family for this man, everything. This is my son's father, but I also, 7 months pregnant, I was almost raped, broad daylight, in the Bronx. And it was a lot of people around that could have, like, they saw this man dragging me. I was 7 months pregnant. They saw this man dragging me. They did nothing. Everyone minded their business. I'm screaming help. Everyone minded their business. I did get away, thankfully. Not sure how, but, by the grace of God. But I feel like I'm probably more able to get over certain things, because I am very much open. I'm like a raw book. I don't really hide much that I go through. My family hates that I'm so open, because they're like, you're going to be judged. And I'm like, well, you don't know where you could be by telling your story. Like I said, my son is autistic. I'm turning that negative into a positive. Right. There's tons of people that come to me and they say, my real name is Kehinde. So they'll say, Kehinde, I have a niece who's this. I have a nephew who's that. What do you think? Where should I go? What should I do? When I went to go get resources, they were not, by black people at that. They were not giving them to me. Okay? It took people that were really deep rooted into the situation to kind of say, well, I know someone that does this and that. The black people were not helping me, unfortunately. Like, they just came to do their job and they wanted to go home. That was it. And I think maybe they didn't want to help because they did have ignorant people who did not want help. You know what I mean? But I have been very open with a lot of the things that I've went through. So for me, I have to thank God that it's been pretty, I've been able to deal with everything that I've went through. So I do still cry because, for my son, like, he doesn't have his dad, like, but then I think if his dad was alive, what would I be going through?
Right.
Yeah.
So God doesn't put you in anything. You see what you're going through right now?
That's right.
You turn that negative into a positive. However you can help anybody, you are the people that can help the community. You know what I mean? So however you can help another person that's going through the same thing, we could do it together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I was gonna. I know we're wrapping up. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, playing devil's advocate. I think that we have to become responsible for us, and no, it's not a blame or a fault for you or Stanley, but it's definitely something for you to look into on your part. You understand what I'm saying? Because I know. Because he was the aggressor, we can say, well, he had things that he needed to handle. But the allowance means that I got something I need to handle as well. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's what we do a lot of times. To give my shameless plug, we doing Healing Hearts on November 4th, and it's called a woman's love or lack thereof. And you should come, Francesca, all of y'all lovely ladies. But it's just about, a lot of times when I'm sitting having these conversations, people play the blame game. Mm-hmm. And when you their friend or you compassionate towards, you start saying, yeah, he was dead wrong, or I know, because I know what he was, but we're not here for him, we're here for you. Mm-hmm. So I think that, of course, Stanley got some things he needed to work on, but, Franny had some things she needed to work on, too. And you working through them. You ain't going through them, you're growing through them. Right. And that's a beautiful thing. Healing Hearts, November 4th.
I think with that being said, it's important to also internalize the fact that domestic violence comes in various different, it comes in different ways. Mm-hmm. Both physical, emotional, verbal, and that's one thing that we as people need to understand, that everyone internalizes things differently. Mm-hmm. So someone being verbally abusive to one person is they'll shrug it off. It's not a thing. Mm-hmm. But to another person, it is something. It's a big deal, and that causes an effect on that person, which then can result in mental illness. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I feel as though men need to stop questioning, men and women need to stop questioning women and doubting whether their stories are true when they come out.
Come on, brother.
In regards to being abused. Okay. And men need to stop being shamed when they are coming out with their stories. There are a lot of men that also experience domestic violence or domestic abusive relationships in whatever capacity, and when they come forward, they are shamed. They are told they are not man enough. How could you allow that to happen by a woman? And all of these sorts of... all man, yeah, exactly. And all these sorts of negative stigmas and notions around the fact that a man can't be in a position where he's in an abusive relationship and he's the victim. Mm-hmm. We need to stop that as a community. It's disgusting, and it's not helping us get to a place where people can get the help and safety that they require and need in those given situations. So that's just my...
man, well said. As we close this podcast, I usually go on like a 2-minute rant, but it's like 1 minute. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's here.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yes, I am a voice of the people, by the people, and I just want to say that the theme of this podcast was mental health, but it touched on everything, and I just want to say that it reached people that was like, oh shit, I'm going through the same thing. Oh shit, every time I walk through the 3 train, the 4 train, the L train, I see a homeless guy. So, on my final thought, if you are walking in the streets and you see an individual with his woman and you see that he's physically or verbally abusive to his woman, then you should do something.
And vice versa. And if you see a homeless man and you know that it's a local shelter, it's a local resources that he may need, just stop. You'll never know what this individual, where his background come from. You don't know if he was a psych major and he just flipped. So stop. Pay attention. Pay attention to your surroundings. Understand your surroundings and know who you are as a person. I appreciate everybody for coming out today.
Stay woke.
Bang, bang. I'm always delivering good stuff sometimes.
Sorry, guys.
Hey.
And don't forget to watch us on Backchat, where we talk about all these amazing things and more. Yes. Our YouTube channel is BKChatWorld, Instagram BKChatWorld, Twitter Backchat, and thank you guys so much for this amazing opportunity. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Oh, man.
Vote for me. I'm running.
Hey. There you go.
Local government.
Oh, that's amazing.
Man.